Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today we're back in the shop and we are going to put this Atlas 4200 into this S14 240SX. Let's get started.
So for those new to the channel that don't know, I got this car about 6 months ago, and this is a 1995 Nissan 240SX. This is the S14 body style for those that don't know the car, and personally I think this is the best looking 240SX that they made. This car used to have a small block Chevy in it, had a fuel cell, nitrous, and I'm assuming it used to have some sort of turbo 350 or maybe a turbo 400 transmission in it, because there's a factory shifter cable. It was an automatic car. Now they definitely were looking into manual swapping it, because when I got the car there was a manual pedal assembly already in the car. So we're actually using an AR5 5-speed manual from a Chevy Colorado. The shifter I'm hoping will sit right where the factory shifter location is from the factory. It does have a 4-point cage in it, which is kind of hacked up, but overall the interior is pretty clean. Definitely a good starting point for the car. Now, I didn't realize that this motor had way longer dowels in it, so I actually had to take them out, put shorter ones in. That's because he uses a 5/8 inch adapter, the guy I got the motor from. Putting it in, the fitment is a little tight because, I gotta be honest, this motor is very, very tall. Now, you can find the dimensions for this motor on the Atlas 4200 wiki page. If you don't know how to find it, just go to Google, type in 4200 wiki, W-I-K-I, and it'll be the first thing that comes up. So here, the motor is kind of getting hung up on the crossmember. The 240SX crossmember is a really weird crossmember. It's kind of hard to explain, but I'll show you more details once the time lapse is over and you kind of see the fitment issues we were having. But beyond that, once we got it in, it was time to start test fitting the intake and the turbo manifold. Here I'm using the Atlas Industry exhaust studs. Now I also use the intake manifold studs as well. Great product, stainless steel. They have little Allen heads so you can thread them in. Here I'd already previously cleaned out the threads, so they kind of went in really easy by hand. And then this gave me an idea of where everything was going to sit. Kind of gave me a little bit of heads up if I was going to have any fitment issues. Now, where the motor currently sits now, I want it to sit further back, but where it sits now, the RTEC intake manifold clears the brake booster and the brake reservoir. But that being said, where I want the motor to sit, which is about 3 or 4 inches further back up against the firewall, it will actually run into the brake booster. So I need to make some modifications along the way. But let's go ahead and wrap this up, and then we'll close out the video and kind of give you details of what all happened here.
All right, well, she is finally in. So this is a test fit. I just want to make that very clear because, wasn't sure how it was going to sit. And currently, although it's in and I can kind of get an idea of where things are going to sit now, this is definitely not its final position. So back here, you can kind of see there's probably about 2 inches between the back of the valve cover and this little lip. Now I can trim this lip out, which I might do, because ideally I'd like to get the back of the motor and the back of the head like within an inch of the firewall, and I'm definitely a good 3 or 4 inches away from doing that. I haven't really seen exactly what is causing it to hang up. So the front sump of the pan is sitting exactly where I thought it would, so we did have to remove the sway bar. But that being said, the motor is not even sitting on that block right now. It's actually sitting on the crossmember. There's a bunch of like webbing and a couple of different things on the pan, and the pan is sloped down to the front. So it's starting to kind of hit that slope as I try to push it back. And when I push it back, as the slope, as the thickness of the pan increases, it starts to push the top of the bell housing of the AR5 transmission into the trans tunnel. So I may have to kind of modify the trans tunnel and open it up a bit. The next fitment issue, so this RTEC manifold looks great, and this brake booster was not in the car when I initially started, but I already had one. So I put it in the car to make sure that there was going to be no interferences. Well, these lines were cut, so I kind of just bent this one line out of the way, which I think goes over to the passenger side wheel, and you can kind of see like it's still hitting it a little bit. The big problem I see though is if I push this thing back 3 or 4 inches, I mean, this thing is gonna definitely start to interfere with the reservoir, if not start hitting the brake booster itself. So I may be able to find like a manual brake option and get rid of the booster altogether. I'm not sure. I haven't really looked at what stuff is offered for the 240. So those are two problems. And then I think the biggest problem, at least for me personally, is just how much the motor is sticking up over the fenders, right? So if I can get the motor back another 3 or 4 inches, this height, right, will be more like here. And I have, the cowl hood that really should be fiberglass together, and it may clear that hump. As it sits right now, there's absolutely no way that's clearing. But if I can get the motor to sit down a couple inches as well as push it back, we'll be fine. So that being said, this is like the first test fitment. I'm pretty excited. Another reason it needs to go back 3 or 4 inches too is the shifter handle for the AR5 is about 3 or 4 inches in front of the OEM shifter bezel in the car. So right here, the shifter bezel, where the shifter bezel is right there, the shifter is probably like right here. So I need it to get back further so I can at least have the shifter coming through the stock location. That is, a perfect world. If the truck AR5 does not work, then I'm gonna see if I can make the Solstice AR5 work, because they have a longer tail shaft and their shifter is actually on a linkage. And something that's really cool is there's a company that makes a sequential shifter for the AR5, but only the Solstice AR5. So it's kind of pricey. I think it's like $1,500, but I mean, it's literally, pull back, upshift, push forward, downshift, and it's just absolutely sick. So I think that would be awesome, but it won't work on the AR5 truck transmission. That being said, I am super excited. This is like the motivation I needed. It's been a long time coming. I know a lot of people have asked about this car, but here it is. And one last look, we got the RTEC turbo manifold, the PSR S372 turbo, which is the same exact turbo that we run on the Trailblazer, and then the RTEC intake manifold. Currently not in production, but the more and more people that show interest in this manifold, I think is going to push that production date sooner. So if you guys want one, you guys need to start blowing up RTEC, really showing interest in it. Much like the turbo manifold, it's a really nice cast piece. I believe this is cast aluminum. The turbo manifold is cast steel, cast stainless. Really cool piece, really nice runners. And I got a bunch of other parts I got to put on this motor, but I don't want to do anything yet until we get it final fit. My plan for the motor mounts, I have a stock mount here and a stock mount here, and you can see it better on this side, but I plan to make a stanchion that comes out with another piece just like this underneath it and use the stock motor mount and just set it right down on that. But that's it. I'm going to wrap this video up here. Sorry, it's been a little delay, a lot of stuff going on, but hopefully you guys are excited for this. Kind of unofficially calling this the 4200 SX. I mean, 3 of the 4 numbers are in the model of this car, 240 SX. I don't think that's coincidence. I think it was meant to be. So if you guys like the video, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.